Thank you very much. My name is Achim Brinkmann, working for Cryptshare, a German-based company. And I'm talking to you today about how to make email better. And don't worry, at some point I will be showing you postcards. I'll explain why in a few moments. Our idea is to improve email. Email is a business tool that has been around already for a couple of decades, really. And the way it was conceived is not the way it is used today. When email was invented, conceived, no one thought about privacy aspects. No one thought about transfer of large files. And compliance, I don't think anybody thought of it in the beginning. And even today, compliance with email is a little bit of a contradiction. So these are the topics I'm addressing when I'm talking about improving email, making email better, or extending the power of email. Couple of things, a couple of information about our company. We are headquartered in Freiburg in Germany. Currently 50 employees, I should say 50 plus employees. We're hiring at the moment. I'm taking care of international sales. International sales meaning those countries where we don't have a presence. Currently we have presences in the Benelux region, in Arnhem. We have presences in Germany, homeland, that's where we started, so it's natural. We have a local presence in the UK, nearby London, and in the US, in Boston. Currently about 1,400 customers worldwide, meaning 3 million users use our solution. This could be companies of any size. It could be companies across various sectors, and quite honestly, each of our clients uses the software for different use cases. So sometimes it's hard to make to compare one customer to another one in a sector. This typically works, but across sectors, I mean, what has the defense sector in common with the health sector? Not much. Well, defending, yeah, but defending against an enemy or defending against sicknesses, yeah. So, oops, that was wrong. Good. So, this is now the part when I start talking about postcards. You probably have a question mark now in your face, or in your mind at least. What does an email have in common with a postcard? An email is like a postcard. Everybody can read it who has access to an email server, and it shares a couple of other common features with an email. It is limited in space, because you can only write your message here. Typically the front is a picture. Is it secure? I wouldn't say so, because everybody who handles the postcard can read it. And is it compliant? No. You never know if the postcard made it to the recipient you intended to send it to. So imagine a simple example. You are somewhere on the coast during the summer holiday. You forgot to water your plants. Would you put on a postcard, "Dear aunt, please go to my apartment, water my plants. You will find the key to the front door under the mat," before the front door? In the best case, the plants are watered. In the worst case, the apartment is empty afterwards when you arrive. Likewise, in the business world, can you send a folder with classified information, confidential information on a postcard? No, it doesn't fit there, it's too small. And even if it would fit, or some of the information would fit on a postcard, you can't be sure who is reading the content. These are the two typical analogies I draw when I make the comparison between a postcard and email. At the moment I have my hands full with various things. So what we basically do is we'll put the email message you want to send into another envelope. And that is an envelope you control. So that's the idea of Cryptshare. Oops, wrong one. So with Cryptshare, we try to overcome security issues, meaning your information is not protected when sending an email. We overcome size limits. You can send files of whatever size with Cryptshare, and we provide an audit trail. You know exactly when the recipient accessed the information you sent to him. How do we do this? We provide you with a software that does the job. We are not a cloud-based solution. We provide you with a software to run your own Cryptshare server, and that does the job. If you don't do it, you end up with a scenario like this. Employees may revert to shadow IT. In other words, these three problems of email, as we know it, as the way it was conceived, sometimes create a fourth one. You don't want to have company contracts that are large, that are too large to be sent by emails, be put by one of your employees in Dropbox. Simply because it was too large to be sent by an email, so they uploaded it to Dropbox and provided the recipient with a link to Dropbox to download the file. Why does this happen? Employees are aware of sharing information, large files through things like Dropbox from the private sphere, and if the company doesn't provide them with the tools to share the same type of information, large files, in a with a company solution, then yeah, they're desperate. They may revert to something like Dropbox, and Dropbox is a cloud-based service, and there's a bit of a legal framework about this. You may have heard about the US Cloud Act. I would like to ask you, if you have time, research some information on the latest developments in the US Cloud Act. Donald Trump agreed to a decree that, in a few words said, allows basically US services access to all the information stored in US-based clouds. I'm not going into detail here, but there's a bit of a legal framework about this. If you want to, come to me afterwards. We have a stand outside, and I'll go more into detail. Yeah. So there were a number of technologies in the past that have addressed each one of these problems, which sometimes technology, yes, it was technology that worked, but technology that was not accepted by the user because it was too difficult to handle. For example, some of you may know a solution called PGP, Pretty Good Privacy. You have to worry about how to distribute the public part of the key to all your recipients. FTP servers, meaning for sharing large files, typically ended up being data graveyards with huge amounts of data people put on there, and after a couple of months no one knows which data to keep, which data to delete, and so on. Ad hoc solutions like WeTransfer, yes, may work between two people, but not on a company basis. So none of them was ideal, and these solutions had the common feature that they were typically complex, they were expensive to run and to maintain, and low user acceptance. So what is it that we do differently? Cryptshare handles files, and secure emails equally. For us, we are talking about contents. It's the same workflow, it's just one click more in Outlook, and then you send your message through your Cryptshare server. And one of our customers summarized this in what I believe, very true sentence. He said, it's encryption that everyone can use. And typically we encourage our customers, when they do a proof of concept, not to have the proof of concept done by the IT-savvy employees, but really by normal employees that don't have much of an IT background. If they can work with Cryptshare, everybody can work with Cryptshare. Yes, we use email, but we do not use SMTP for sending out the contents you provide, because we directly upload all the contents to the Cryptshare server that the customer runs, and the customer controls the server, and the customer controls who has access to the server. And if the customer wants to send something to the recipient receives a link. By clicking on the link, possibly entering a password, depending on how strong the protection is, the recipient can access the information. We use encryption, but we use symmetric encryption that has been around for a couple of decades already. It's understood, it's easy to use, so straightforward. And we have something here, it's called automatic key exchange on the roadmap. It's currently being implemented. We have exhibited at the RSA conference in San Francisco a technology we call quick technology, which means it automates the password handling. So only the first email, the recipient will have to enter a password. After that, he has a permanently protected connection through the internet to the sender and can exchange as many files as he wants, and he doesn't have to worry about password handling anymore because it happens automatically in the background using one-time passwords. Cryptshare is available in a number of flavors. The server itself provides a web interface for somebody outside of your organization. If somebody wants to send you critical information, then he uploads it through the web interface onto your server. We provide an Outlook add-in, so it's just the literal one click more and you send information out through your company's Cryptshare server. Those of you who use IBM Notes, as far as I know, we are the only one providing a solution for Notes in this context. Then, of course, we have APIs to automate processes, and we have a robot. A robot is typically being used for third-party applications that want to send out a lot of emails to a number of clients through the Cryptshare server. So the third-party application triggers the robot, he does the job, pushes out the emails through the Cryptshare server, and then the recipient can download the information. You can run Cryptshare on-premise on a dedicated server. You can run it externally in typically your private cloud because this span of control aspect, you want to keep span of control. Virtual appliance is available if you have your own VMware Hyper-V environment. You can run a Cryptshare server in there as a virtual machine. And of course, we provide a hardware appliance. Typically, customers from the defense industry background want something like this because it's very hard to attack, it's autonomous, and it's very safe. Basically, this all translates into more usability because you only have one product instead of 3 for a secure email and file exchange. You don't have to worry about file limits anymore. We have customers from the advertising agency background that are sending out several gigabyte sized files. It's integrated into the email workflow, so it's easy to use, just the literal one click more. You can use it on an ad hoc basis. You don't have to create accounts for the recipient. You don't have to do anything. The recipient doesn't need anything to do. He doesn't need to have, he does not need to install anything or import anything. And if you want to go as far as you want to into email classification, let me give you an example. Those of you who have been in contact with the Army, you may be aware that armies typically use several classes of information. There's public information, there's confidential information, there's strictly confidential information. In Germany, the Bundeswehr has up to 7 levels. So we can integrate that as well into the Outlook add-in. And then the typical employee doesn't have to think anymore, do I have to set a password? What part of the message should be encrypted? It's all preset through the dialog, so it's really one click more and out goes the message in the level you define as the admin of the email and the Cryptshare server. And then I talked already about this. Cryptshare provides more security, one-time keys. You have a full audit trail because you get a number of notifications. Message was sent out, message was accessed by the recipient. The recipient has read the encrypted message. The recipient has downloaded the encrypted attachment. So you get various notifications, which you can use to run statistics. And of course, you can even encrypt subject lines. So because the subject line sometimes is self-explanatory what the email contains, that's why we propose to encrypt subject lines as well. It meets business requirements because down to the level of email content classification, you can create policies that help you really implement whatever security policy you have in your company to implement that into the normal email workflow as part of how Cryptshare works. Let me briefly describe this. Whenever you send something from Outlook and you decide, for example, you want to encrypt the attachments, what Cryptshare does is it grabs from Outlook the attachment, it passes it through a TLS tunnel, then a malware scan happens, so that you don't send out and transmit any virus information, for example. Then if you want to, an email archiving kicks in, so it archives the email you send out. And then, depending on your company, some companies use this, a data leakage protection kicks in. So it searches the email you're sending out in order and to block possibly critical content from leaving the company, like a calculation, an offer the competitor shouldn't get, something like that, that a employee who doesn't have the best intention wants to send out. So this all happens, and then only the message, the content gets stored on the Cryptshare server in an encrypted manner until the moment the recipient decides to download it. Yeah. We have by this we give you a central and powerful policy of full control over contents you exchange with outside parties or even internally. And there's logging, and even in the system incident and event management solution, you can connect Cryptshare and really know what's going on. So basically, Cryptshare creates an opportunity to consolidate applications instead of 3, one for file encryption, one for the transfer of large files, and one for email classification. You have one solution that addresses all these items. In relationship to the GDPR, this addresses a number of requirements that the GDPR policy requires. Most notably that if you have, for example, like myself, I will probably send next week a letter to Google asking what sort of personal information Google keeps about myself, and then it's Google's responsibility to send that information to me, but in a secure way that no one else can access it. That is what Cryptshare does. It helps you implement the GDPR directive into daily operations. So if you receive a request from somebody to transmit whatever personal information you have stored about him, then Cryptshare can be the solution to help you address exactly this challenge. Yeah, how to do it. And I'll show you. Excuse me, how do we execute this file? Because it's a small video, 1 minute. Which of the buttons I have to press?
Yeah, it looks like just...
Which one?
Because you can't see them.
Oh, okay, it's right. No. Okay, and then maybe turn up the loudspeaker a little bit. I'm not sure if you can hear it. It just summarizes what I've just said. Yeah, but we don't have the sound, yeah?
Yeah, sounds like it.
Okay, then, okay, it doesn't make any sense at the moment. That's fine though. So if you want to, I can give you a live demo at our booth. I have everything installed on my laptop, and yeah, you're welcome. I think we skipped this. Okay, so thank you very much for your attention, and stop by at our booth, and then I can show you the more practical side of it, which the half-hour slot doesn't allow. Yeah, thank you.
No, thank you. Right, you don't get to go away soon.
Are there any questions?
Have we got a question?
Yes, from the gentleman here.
Wait 1 second, please. Let's have a... Grab that. Grab that. You're
How do you manage that the customers gets a secure password and login name and password? Okay, you send secure way out the message email. How does the customers get the secret to access to this email?
Typically the customer gets an SMS from you or a phone call, or, and this is in the next, or via some automated features like an SMS gateway. We provide an interface to SMS gateways, so you can send it out via SMS, and then with this new quick technology, it's just the first time you need the password, and then everything is encrypted automatically.
Does encryption to him happens on a browser on his email system?
He receives an email, and this is the point where I have to show it to you personally. He receives an email containing a link, or if you allow HTML-based emails, he sees a button, so he can click on the download button, then he gets rediverted to the browser, and this is where he types in his password. Yeah?
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
How do you grant access? For example, if I install that in a office, you know, your basically it's a server, isn't it?
Yeah.
Right. So I buy this hardware, or is
No.
it just software?
It's just software.
Right. So I buy software, install it on my own computers, and then
Yes.
make sure that it can go through the networks the right
You
way.
run your own Cryptshare server in, say, a virtualized environment. Yes.
Right. Okay. Thanks.
Okay. Any other question? Okay. Hold on. Oh, okay. I give you mine.
Who is your typical customer? Is it middle or small business, and what type, in what area they work?
The smallest customers these days that we see could be a company, 1 or 2 employees, and they are using a managed as a service solution we provide with a partner out of Germany. So this is the smallest. The typical customer at the moment is between, we get a lot of requests, and I'm talking about the German situation, because there I see different type of customers requesting information in the light of the GDPR directive. It's mostly from the medical sector. So dentists who send out X-rays of your teeth, for example, yeah? And it goes to something like a ThyssenKrupp with 200,000 employees. That's the other end of the spectrum. And in the Baltics, you will come across us with some of the banks and with some of the insurance companies. Yeah, so it could be anything. Think of it, a customer could be from a defense industry background, a customer could be, for example, from a laboratory background, sending out blood test results, for example. It could be a public sector authority, like the office that takes care of real estate, who owns what. Yeah, if they want to send out plans, could be a utility company that is sending out photos or detailed plans of where gas pumps are and so on. Anything is possible. That's why I said in the beginning, the use case varies across. Sometimes the motivation is to have a encryption solution, and then they find out, oh, I can send large files with it as well. Great. Sometimes this large file transfer aspect is more important than the encryption part. The example I used was the advertising agency who want to send a several gigabyte big video file, for example, to its client. Yeah, lawyers use us to transmit digital files to courts or to clients. Yeah, so it depends on the use case, really. Anything?
What's the pricing?
Can you see me afterwards?
That's not a good answer.
Hold on. Maybe I talk briefly about the license models. Our license model is based on the number of mailboxes. So it's either you tell us these 25 mailboxes need Cryptshare, so we create a license key for you that allows just these 25 mailboxes to be able to use the Cryptshare server, or we ensure a email domain. And you can imagine with very large multinational groups, the license file then contains up to 100 or 200 email domain names, because each country uses a different email domain name. Yeah, so it could be anything like that. Last question. Can you you mean delivery to the recipient?
You're triggering spam.
Why do I trigger spam? Because the client receives a regular email from the sender with the sender's email address in there, and the email just contains a link, so it's not really spam. It's not stuck in the spam folder. Yeah.
Technically, the spam filters could consider an email coming with a link as being potentially spam. It is a risk if there is a precedent.
Yes, in rare occasions you have that, but then you can still adapt the spam filter rules accordingly. Yeah, but typically this is this is not like all emails pass through the Cryptshare server, but only some, those containing the important information, and by then the spam filters have learned. And if there is an issue with it, then it means a modification to the spam filters may be necessary. But from the recipient side, it seems like you are just sending him an email, and that's it. The only difference is there's a link in there.
That's it.
Thank you.
Thank you. No, thank you. No, well done, sir. Thank you very much.